Welcome back, everybody, to the Rainbow Six North American League. Doa Jesse Jacob here with you at the desk, and it's time to go into our second matchup of the day. It's going to be Soniqs taking on Oxygen, and this is going to be a really interesting one. Like we talked about before, Soniqs is doing well this week. They're looking better than ever, and this is what we were waiting for, right? We saw that little sort of progress at the end of stage number 1 where they started to kind of pull themselves up out of the depths of wherever it was they were after coming back from SI. Things looked a bit shaky in week 1 of stage 2, but now here in week 2, day 1 at least looked good. Can they keep that up against a team like Oxygen, though?
I mean, it definitely has been getting progressively better. That game against DZ yesterday was partly them playing fantastic on Oregon, partly also Dark Zero just disappointing on Oregon. Again, It doesn't really feel like that map feels like their Achilles heel, something that they want to rely on, but sometimes it's not something that they have the same amount of strategic depth that can really catapult them in, especially if they weren't playing up to par yesterday. Soniqs are a fantastic team to take advantage of that, and hopefully they can do the same today, but their opponent is going to make that difficult. I think OXG is the only undefeated team left in the league at this point.
They are undefeated, but they do have 2 overtime wins. So there is that kind of asterisk there, too, where it's like they're winning, but they are barely winning by the thinnest margin. Against Soniqs, that might be a little bit dangerous. It's going to come back to bite them at some point, you know?
I mean, you think maybe, but also we just had a major where Dark Zero basically won it off of winning so many close series. So
yeah, fair enough. That's
there's
true.
something to say about always winning those close matches.
That's true. Well, let's talk about Oxygen a little bit more in depth here. Obviously, this is a team that, like we just said, they have gotten by the skin of their teeth in 2 out of their 3 wins so far this stage. But hey, you know, a win is a win. So the question is, how do you take those and translate it from those overtime wins into regulation wins, get more points, get more confidence, get it done a little bit faster?
Well, I think just the style that they're playing, it's going to be hard to maybe manage to pick up wins like super consistently. The thing that we saw in their last game yesterday on Bank was a very aggressive, Valk-heavy Bank game, right? There were some big individual rounds from both Fox and Vertical that really did help pull them through in that one, and it was a scrappy one. And sometimes when you play those kind of scrappy, aggressive rounds where you're playing a lot of those Valkyries, you're playing with a lot of intel, you're willing to take swings, take fights, those can be a little bit more 50-50, and I think sometimes those games do tend to go the distance a little bit more. But again, it's the micro, right? It's being able to talk to your coach, being able to slow things down in between when things are really getting heavy towards the end of the match. And I think Auction so far have done a fantastic job at that.
The TSM game also had a couple rounds as they were mounting their comeback when it was 6-4 TSM, and then OXG are like, you know what? Team play can be a little bit better. So what happens? We see that Foxade 2v3 clutch that really pushes them back and forces that was played on open. We moved down into lockers on round 12, and suddenly it's the same thing, but that's off Vertical pushing directly into sight and the rest of his team coordinating around the opportunity that was presented. Whereas as the rest of the game had gone on, it felt like OXG sometimes fell back on some fundamentals or some basic formulas that weren't necessarily working against a TSM team that knows Bank very extensively. So when they play maybe a little bit more, it might be categorized as impulsive, but this team needs to capitalize off of the impulse more if they want to beat teams that are still considered to be at the top of the league. And ultimately that worked yesterday. They won 4 in a row, and TSM did nothing once they got on the match point.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Vertical as well. That was a player that struggled a bit in week 2, week 1 rather, finally showed up yesterday. And he's going to need to show up a lot if he wants to match the stats that this guy right here on your screen is putting up. Newers is having himself a stage.
Newers, say what you will about the kid, but he is a beast in the server. So far, he's been the highest rated player in the league overall, and he's just been consistent for Oxygen over and over again. This goes back even to the major. Some struggles last stage, but so far he's been showing up in every single game that he's had. 1.39 CGG rating, plus 46 and 24 overall KD. That's a ratio of just under 2 kills per death, 1.917. Fantastic play from him so far throughout the stage. He plays that classic entry role on Finka. He does what every top player in the league does right now, running through on entry. And I thought yesterday he actually had a bit of a slow start. He was in a lot of opening deaths early on defense, but he turned it around in that second half when he was able to switch sides on Bank, move over to the offense, and grab that Finka and really just shred people. It was fantastic work from him.
So far it's been working, and we had the question of what happens when for some reason Newers doesn't have a Finka to play with, and that question's gotten answered so far through 3 weeks. It feels like that's not something that he has to crutch on nearly as hard. Even though that's the thing that he's been playing primarily, he's also the one who's trying to spearhead their attempts to incorporate a zombie into their lineups. We talked a little bit more about how he and Laxing were the ones who were kind of sharing the boat a little bit, but how much impact has he made there?
Well, I mean, have some warm lips, I guess.
I think he's
so you need for Rainbow Six, yeah.
The thing is, like, I agree with you what you said, Jacob. Like, they don't need to have him relying on Finka, and we saw that all the way back in week 1 when Auction played Parabellum. They banned out the Finka, and he still was able to show up, have a pretty strong game there. So, I mean, Obviously, he will use the best tools that are available to him, but it's not something like if the OXG know they're going against a team that have another really strong Finka player, they have the option to ban that out and just take it out of the game entirely.
Now, on the other side of the arena, we have Soniqs, of course, our NAL champions from 2021, but stage one was rough to say the least, right? Now, fast forward to stage number 2, fast forward to week 2 of stage number 2. This team is starting to look like the team we all know they can be, right? They got that big win yesterday over Dark Zero. They looked very convincing doing it. Now, here comes an even tougher opponent, I think, right now in Oxygen. They got to step it up to that next degree, too.
I think week 1, we did see Soniqs improve a little bit, but they still weren't finding those wins. It was better than what we saw for most of stage 1, but they were still struggling when it really mattered towards the end of games. Then we finally saw them break through in the last Playday against Dark Zero, had a very dominant match over on Oregon. Felt like they really read DZ and what they wanted to do on that map. Similar to the Space Station game that we saw from DZ a little while earlier last week. I thought the defensive roams were fantastic. The combo of Yeti and Super, traditionally the support players. I mean, Rexon can play some Hard Breach every now and again, but if you had to pick 2, I'd probably go Yeti and Super to define as supports. When they switched over to defense, that was not the case at all. Playing those spots to die in, moving around, rotating back to site when it made sense to do so, had massive impact either in getting that opening pick on defense or stalling out enough time that their anchors could hold it down in the end.
No, I genuinely agree. It feels like that's the roam combo of a lifetime, and it's the minor adjustments, I think, in this case, because Kansan was given more of an anchor position just to allow him to play on site for longer. The longer Kansan is alive, the more the chances of the Soniqs overall round win percentage going up also goes up. So I look at this Soniqs squad, and it's just a matter of the small things, the things they recognize didn't need a whole bunch of change coming into the season, because on defense, that's where they looked unstoppable against Dark Zero yesterday. Sometimes they're punishing super stagnant clears where Dark Zero didn't necessarily feel very alive, and even sometimes it's a matter of like losing to basic swings. When do we know Soniqs to get super aggro on defense? Sometimes they will just allow their opponents to like enter their crosshairs, but when they take matters into their own hands, it almost felt like an unexpected thing that happened yesterday and was a big reason for why the Soniqs were able to pull ahead on defense so much.
I'm still pretty convinced it's partially the super beard situation as well. You know, free the face, free the strats.
And this is what we get paid the mid-bucks for.
Free the charm out.
That's right.
Primes.
Exactly. There you go. Free the charms.
Oh, God.
Yeah, there you go. I'm worried. It looks like it's coming back a little bit.
Well, I mean, maybe he's grown, he's learned, so he's ready.
But maybe. We'll see. Yeah, it's a new and better beard for a better tomorrow.
That's a lot of beard for a 14-year-old. That's creepy.
That's a very good point. Let's move on to our maps. Let's see where it is we're going to play in this series today. The bands are in. Chalet and Theme Park out right away.
Chalet makes a lot of sense from Oxygen. It's a map they really struggled on last year. Did pick up a win this stage, last stage, but still, it's one that the Soniqs have loved to play. We saw just yesterday in the map ban phase, SQ threw a bit of a curveball to Dark Zero by not picking it. They're not going to get that opportunity today. Skyscraper going to be out in the next round of bans from the Soniqs. They were the first NA team to ever play Skyscraper. They got 1 round against the Straws and have banned it pretty consistently every time since. It has been one that Auction played a lot at the Major as well. They showed a lot off there. I think they learned a lot from Skyscraper at the Major, so it doesn't shock me that Soniqs want to take that away. And then Border and Cafe. Border being a big map to come through here for Oxygen. They do have an even record going back through SI, but then they scraped through a big win over at BDS. It's also the game that we saw these two teams play against one another back in stage 1, a 7-5 win for Oxygen, but too close for comfort.
So we're looking at a couple maps that are left here. Villa Clubhouse Bank. The only time a team has played this in this matchup more than once is Oxygen on Clubhouse, but they get to a point where they actually force the Soniqs to ban it because you definitely don't want to play that map against OXG. So we're back on Bank again. Remember the last time we saw the Soniqs play this one was relatively recently, or I think it was the very first map that they played to start off the stage. We're not able to come away with the victory. Last time I saw OXG play it was a little bit further back, but now we're sorry, it wasn't. It was just yesterday.
Quite, yeah.
So what we're looking at is like neither team has necessarily shown that this is like their baby, so to speak. I feel like that game against TSM was OXG playing TSM as opposed to playing the map, so to speak. So maybe there's a little bit more creativity that they can get away with it if a Valkyrie is still up. But I don't know. I like the pick overall. We'll see. It seems pretty dead even.
Yeah, I think, and again, as we move into predictions, it's going to be tough. Like pretty much every match this stage is going to be a little bit tricky to predict. So first, I want to send it over to our casters, Blue and Stokes, to see what they have to say. So guys, if you made up your mind, how tough is this one to pick really? Like, how much does the Soniqs win yesterday mean to you?
Here, you can go first.
I guess I got my money back, boys. Hey, let's go. You know, I think it plays a lot into the overarching story for the Sonics and the fact that they are starting to come back into form. And I think that's a really, really good thing. Now, do I think that that means that they beat Oxygen? No. I think Oxygen definitely has this one in the bag. But hey, I've been proven wrong before. I just got proven wrong a couple of moments ago when Beast Coast ended up taking dub over XSET. So, but for me, got to lock in Oxygen. Just makes a little bit more sense.
It's going to be the same kind of thought pattern for me. I feel like there's a possibility that the win yesterday from Space Station might have been slightly map dependent, as that's obviously Oregon is a really good map, generally speaking, for the Sonics. So going to Bank, I feel like they still have a little bit of work to do here. I also feel like Oxygen has a pretty solid game on this map, so my vote's going to be going over towards them.
All right, 2 for Oxygen. I kind of feel like, though, at this point, like, the more votes we have for a team, like, the more likely it is that the other team wins. It seems like kind of powering up, doesn't it?
I'm staying away from that logic. I have no idea where that's going.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, we'll check back in with our casters in just a moment. Now it's time to find out what the analysts have to say. So, Jesse, Jacob, have your minds been made up? Are you going the Oxygen route as well?
Jacob, I'm not going to pay you, but would you like to go first?
No, you can go first.
All right. Well, listen, I think that I think
go.
the Oxygen are the stronger team overall from what we've seen throughout the stage so far. I also really liked their win against TSM on Bank yesterday. There is a little bit of danger because they're playing it back-to-back, and Sonics have really read into that, and they think that they've got a great counter to everything they saw OXG bring yesterday. It's unlikely that they've got a bunch of new strats. We'll see if that Val gets banned again, because if she stays up once more, then it'll likely be a very similar game to what we saw yesterday. All that is to say, I'm picking Oxygen here, but it's a tough one to call for sure.
See, normally I would be in agreement, but here's the thing. I still felt like that game that OXG had against Astralis to start off the stage, in spite of it being a loss, it was an 8-7 loss. That was a really, really close game. Now, you might say, had a coach in as a sub, Astralis didn't have a lot of time to prepare, but I feel like the way that we've seen Super play into some of these death spots, I want to highlight that a little bit more and see if that plays more of like a plan on Bank, so to speak. I felt like that defense was still done really well, and if they play the same way, I think we can see a lot of Bank misdirection, so to speak, and force the attack to focus on Super more than on the site. I'm curious if that's the case. I'm going to pick Sonics. Let's see where this goes.
Wow, all right. So Jacob goes with Sonics. Let's find out what the coin has to say. As usual, left side of the bracket is going to be heads. It's going to be Oxygen. Right side is going to be tails.
Coin's doing quite poorly so far.
I know. It's been a rough stage for the coin, no doubt. Let's see if it continues. It is tails. The coin says Sonics as well.
Dang it.
Uh-oh. What does it mean?
Don't side with me.
What does it mean? Who knows? We're going to find out. Let's find out what the fan vote is as well. I would imagine people are probably going to pick Oxygen here. That's what it's going to be. So 2 for Sonics. 1 is Jacob. 1 is the force of random chance in the coin. So we'll see who is correct. Remember, everyone picked not Beast Coast, and Beast Coast won it in the first round. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen. Let's find out what our community poll is as well. The question, of course, that you have to think about as we go into this one: who would win a Hell in a Cell match? All right, well, there you go. What's the answer there? I think it's hard to not bet on Yeti, but
that's
I've
just
met
more
the guy
like
in person.
who can withstand the most physical torment is what that question is.
That's a tough one. Those are two
Like-
buff boys.
Yeah, that is a tough one. Like I said, my money's on Yeti, but I mean, he named himself after a large, beefy cryptid in the Abominable Snowman.
Look,
I suppose.
I would pay to see Laxing
Thermos.
versus Yeti in a cage match. I would.
Yeah.
R6 boxing?
You know, I would Esports boxing. I mean, we've had
I'll be
streamer
ref.
boxing. Why not? Why not? We'll figure it out during the break while you guys go grab a snack or something like that. When you come back, round number 2 of the day gets underway. It's going to be Sonics taking on Oxygen. Let's see who takes it right after this.
Tours, and this is the NAL.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to the NAL. We're getting ready to jump into our second matchup of the day here. Just like our first one, it should be a pretty close game. So we've got two teams that have really been on a heater recently going up against each other. It is going to be the Soniqs up against Oxygen. Stokes, get your opening thoughts on this game.
There's a lot going on right now with these two teams. You know, Oxygen have a pretty good showing at Charlotte. Pretty solid start to stage 2, I would say. But for the Soniqs, they've been on kind of a heater, especially coming off of their big dub against Dark Zero yesterday and trying to turn it into 2 for the week if they can and secure all 6 points in the process. Here's Oxygen in front of you, folks. So we'll start in this department. OXG had quite the showing at Charlotte. Really enjoyed their gameplay. The best player currently in the NAL by statistics. Newers sitting in front of your camera right next to Vertical here. And I mean, he's been lights out when it comes to the frag department. Really playing well. I think he's found himself quite the home when it comes to OXG. We were asking a little bit more out of Vert yesterday, and I think we got that in a certain sense. It didn't really have the most bombastic start to stage 2, but Oxygen is really coming back into their own for this stage and just getting everything buckled down and ready to try and grind things out for the rest of this stage. But for the Soniqs camp, I think that they are looking at 10 times better than they did stage 1. Stage 1, they just looked entirely discombobulated. They really didn't know what was going on. They were just kind of off doing their own thing, and they finally brought it back to center, and they've been able to really work with that extremely well. Some adjustments inside of the defensive lineup that we saw as of recently as well, with Yeti as well as Super on more of a forward position, taking some gunfights and actually finding quite a bit of success in that department.
The big question here today is how comfortable the Soniqs are going to be with expanding the map pool. We saw them have absolutely no problem shutting down the major champions yesterday in Dark Zero on their kind of home map of Oregon, but that's to be somewhat expected. They've been kind of dominating in that department for a few months now, and oftentimes as a result of that, teams are going to be banning that map out. They've been forced into a new one here today as they're going to be having to stretch their legs over towards Bank, map where we started to see Oxygen excel at in previous months as well. So it'll be quite the challenge here today. We'll have to see who steps up to the plate for the SQ roster. Yesterday, it was the usual suspects, Grixer as well as Kansan, kind of leading the charge, but not by a huge margin. The rest of the team still contributing quite evenly. Overall, a team affair. And to some extent, you could say that for the Oxygen camp as well. But you've got that dynamic duo working itself between Vertical as well as Newers right now that is bringing so much firepower to the table. Stokes, in fact, was talking about just a few moments ago. And that's the main issue that the Soniqs are going to have to contend against, kind of that all of a sudden entry surprise that this team can bring out between those two players. Even in the dying moments of the round 2, OXG can play a very slow game inside of the early game and then all of a sudden just slap you in the face with like all 5 players rushing into the site there, especially if Laxing or someone a little bit sneakier is able to get into a pretty powerful position to play into late rounds.
Yeah, it really feels like Oxygen just has these 2 incredible monsters on the front line, and then they have all these trap cards just face down waiting for you, and that's the other 3 players inside of this unit. Laxing especially, I mean, we've seen the amount of crazy things that he's been able to pull off throughout his career, one of the best land players in the entire world, and he's partnered up with Dream as well as his duo Foxay, who those 2 together have just been so very strong throughout the years. Obviously that full trio, including Vertical, we've seen this core time and time again under a multitude of different banners, and they always are looking quite strong. So we expect the same out of them here today, as we'll finally be kicking things off here on Bank, folks. Oxygen versus Soniqs. It's bound to be a banger. Let's get right into it.
Let's indeed hop into Bank for the second time today to see who can take home the lion's share of these points we've got to spread around. There's 3 of them up for grabs, and we're either going to give all of them to one of these teams if they take it inside of regulation, or we'll split up in 2-1 fashion, with the winner taking it the 2-point spread in overtime, and the loser taking the 1 point for at least making it to that phase of the game. First band is coming up, and it's from the Soniqs. They've got the 2 orange bands on the outside of the UI there. At the top, Oxygen has the 2 middle ones. Hibana, Dustin, and she's going to be the first operator removed.
Hey, solid ban. You know, Bank, there's a lot of different ways that you can work this ban phase. So Hibana's obviously going to be more directed towards hatches, so they're going to slow that up just a little bit, make it to where you can't get nearly as many as you would so want with a singular operator. Nook's going to be the next one banned out. We touched on this a little bit on our previous Bank, but we'll do so yet again. She's kind of been on an upward curve, and well, at least through the recent years of Siege since her release in Phantom Sight, and it's made her quite quite potent as people have found out more and more ways that they can sneak into the building around cameras, and especially since she has frag grenades, it just makes things quite easy for her to be worked into a lineup. And on a map like Bank, where there's a lot of different entry points, definitely something you're going to want to remove. Valkyrie making too much sense. Everyone knows this one. Those Valk cams too strong when it comes to the intel cam. And then finally, Azami, the character that's making quite a few waves. I mean, you could practically say a tsunami at this point with all of these bans that have been coming through for her. Ever since the first week, and some people got some action around Azami, everybody has been banning this op. Newers said it in the first week. It's probably the best operator currently on defense, and we can see everyone respecting that quite a lot.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get into it here. First reckoning started. It is going to be the Soniqs on the defense. They will start out in the basement, kind of the expected go-to site. Open area can be quite the proposition as well, depending on the team. So wouldn't have been too surprised to see them go in that direction. In fact, more than likely have that follow up this site play in the second or third round. As far as Oxygen is concerned, there's not a whole lot that's going to throw you guys off here either, especially with regards to the top 4 operator picks here. You've got Hard Breach, you've got Soft Breach, you've got the Finka because she's a requirement in Vertical as well with the usual entry pick, bringing in the Yana. The big thing to talk about, of course, is going to be the Zero, the Sam Fisher being played by Foxy, but here on Bank, this is a pretty mainstayed operator as well, specifically to input those Argus cams inside of the lobby area, a few other spots as well where they can be snuck in and can be very useful for the intel gathering process on the attack.
All right, well, Oxygen out and about for the very first time here on Bank. You and I getting 2 back-to-back banks here today. A little bit of a tongue twister there. So it should make for quite the interesting treat, especially since a couple of these teams definitely have a different way of doing things. So Soniqs are going to have an aggressive front on this top floor, and that's going to be propped up by some of these prismas to assist with some of the angles that Oxygen could try and occupy for some time and get some extra intel or anything of the sort, but that's what Oxygen will be looking for. The first 40 seconds not necessarily being used in the most aggressive of ways, just droning things out on this top floor and starting their entry from the top of square.
Is able to make his impact first here at top square. We'll be able to take control here. Do see yellow pings going out, but that's just because we do have an ally clone sitting here. Sneers keeping his hand on the swivel to be able to quickly take that out. More so paying attention in the event we had members of the Soniqs holding over towards Banana. That we would see a potential swing from those elevator banks on the right side. So that's what Newers was keeping an eye on. Not going to get that, though. It does look like the Soniqs have abandoned all upstairs presence and instead are only going to be holding Rex and maybe 1 or 2 other players here on the first floor. Specifically, that second player going to be maintaining blue control. It's looking like Super will be on the other end of that one. Ready for the challenge when Oxygen are ready to swing into this.
Holding things down on blue. Way too many ADSs for Vertical to try and deal with it by himself, so might have to try and circumnavigate this in a different way. Super's going to back off, and very fortunate that didn't have a swing off of that shield there. Could have gotten scary for just a moment if Vertical did want to try and get a little bit more aggressive. And speaking of aggression, he'll see the shoulder of Super, but won't be able to get it done. The aggressive look from Vertical now, as I believe it was actually in tow, and it was Laxing actually working his way over there, and that was that initial swing that we saw. So, as predicted, 2 people utilized to try and take control of blue, and it'll go off without a hitch.
There's chucking in the nades, see if he can get lucky with some damage onto the players in red hole, but it's way too easy to read by the members of the Soniqs, so minimal impact being made here. Newers still hunting for that red hole target, however, because the nade does not pan out. Yeti also way back inside the garage here, just to make sure that in the event we see a hatch play come to bear, he can potentially be that linchpin that allows for the Sonic to still stay in the fight. Beautiful entry being made by Vertical. In fact, the second one on the round is able to take out Grixer, but Rex finally gets the better of him on an exchange. Impacts, and I believe another Toxic Babe going to go out there, but it's way too late. The play is already down.
Unfortunate circumstances now for Soniqs, but they're not out of it just yet. It looks like they want to try and retake into the mid-floor, up Marble Stairwell. Rexon working his way up now. Foxay on the Overwatch. It's going to be a quick ascension of the staircase here, and a peek from the secondary player, Rexon, in towards the actual
well, that's not a good way to clutch this Yeti.
Yeah, unfortunate for Yeti, and a trade here at the very end. As Foxay will get him in the body, he'll get Fox in the head, but either way, it's an Oxygen round.
Bit of a rough play there at the end, but not really much that Yeti could have realistically done. Tries to line up the best play possible, but loses half of his HP on the impact toss, and then as well gets pinched from the top of those main stairs. Still was set before a 1v5, but prior to that point, however, it was going to be a pretty desperate situation. We were already about halfway through that diffuse timer. Pinpoint accuracy on the execute, especially from Vertical for those first 2 kills here on Oxygen, and they do not struggle in the least bit with clearing out the interior site setup there for the Soniqs.
Yes, indeed. And the Sonics are actually going to work their way towards an open area hold instead. Not really liking the downstairs defense as Oxygen got way too far ahead of them in the man count. Were able to abuse that all the way down to the wire. Closing off every exit as well on that site. It was going to be extremely difficult for anybody on the Sonics to really get anything done in that regard. That's why you saw one of the members, I do believe it was Yeti actually, that ascended all the way up the staircase and went to try to go to top square, because that was really their only saving grace that they could have potentially have got. But even Oxygen didn't have that avenue cut off, so it's making things extremely hard at the end of the day. So Sonics going for that mid-floor hold like we were talking about before. The reinforcements upstairs not going to look like a lot of other teams. Most of the time we see that north wall reinforced inside of Janitor with the other two reinforced here for the conference room, just to make sure that you can play inside of that Janitor area with the hatch open and fall back towards site. But the Sonics don't want that. I believe they want to try and hold on to the entirety of this top floor and play some angles for these members up top to force Oxygen to have to try and dislodge Grixer and Rexon.
So we're going to continue to see Grixer wait out the opportunity to make impact here against the opening Oxygen clear. Oxygen pretty light, though, when it comes to the lobby push. Really only one player on a rappel over in that part of the map as far as we can see right now, so going to probably remain that way for the large majority of play. It's going to be Noors on that rappel, however, over here in Square, as we get a better idea of where he's currently positioned at. He's going to be supporting the initial push from Vertical as he moves up to the J door. Has not spotted this position from Rex yet, and that scan is not going to isolate him either, so he's ready for the challenge. Tries to pre-fire out the trade from Laxing, but won't be able to get that. So just a simple 1-to-1 at the exit of J to start off this round.
Nice shots there from Rexon. That'll take away some of the info game from Oxygen, but they don't really need it when it comes to the Inox. They have it in drones instead. They found themselves a Grixer, but they know that the Sonics still have a player inside of the elevator hallway at the top of the staircase. Have a deployable shield there as well, make it a little bit easier to hold on to this area. Sonics are doing a bang-up job of delaying time at the current moment, and Oxygen can't really do anything about it until Noors finds himself a nice angle on the north windows. He'll take out Grixer, and that's more than likely going to activate this other Sonics member to either fight or flight. And yet he chooses the latter, so he'll drop down the stairwell, but into yet another gunfight deeper inside of Tellers.
Yeti trying to rotate back around, still wants to fight by that Teller's door, and he'll get the duel. Takes out Foxay with it, evens out the man count down to a 3v3. Also, opens to the floodgates here now for the Sonics members to retreat into the site, but unfortunately they'll still lose one additional member of their team before doing so. Dream says, these Selmas, I don't need them. Throws one into the laser gate to get rid of it. Obviously with some flash support coming in behind that, but still Ruff on the initial push as he works his way into the site is going to have to back up. Thankfully, an Adrenal Surge will boost him up quite quickly from Noors there, but still, it's a failed push, but with plenty of time left on the clock, shouldn't be too much of a major issue. What is going to be a problem, though, is these angles here from Kansan. He's got these aggressive cutoffs established, even going back into Tellers and Archives too, and yet he also completing the flank. Now lines up another drop, but he's not going to be able to complete the task here. Noors with no Adrenal Surges, but Laxing should have been close by, able to retrieve him up possibly and still keep things down to a 3v2.
They're getting him up right now.
There we go.
Be back up and alive. Laxing still has a drone inside of his pocket, but they're not trying to be too forward with that. Played quite a bit of time just pre-firing through small office wall and hoping that somebody will take a fight. Laxing's finally going to work his way around, but he has to work around these beepers. And the other issue is he's already been droned out. They're going to take the swing here. Yeti being very aggressive and has given up his location. Big problems now as he works his way in. You get worried when you see Cans in an open area, but it doesn't work for him this time around. Gabe bears down on the location. It'll remove the last two Sonics members from Bank and take the round.
Bit of a rough situation there at the dying moments of the round. You heard Stokes mention it. Only one drone remaining there for the team to use. Probably a couple still out, but definitely not near the site. So they were at a lack for intel. That's why they didn't initially have the confidence to push towards that 3v2, which they should have been able to win. But ultimately, Laxing able to line himself up in the duel versus Yeti. Stokes mentioned it. Once again, he gave away his position, gave Laxing the confidence he needed to swing the laser gate and take him down, and then carried that forward through the gate to kill the last player as well. Beautifully done once again. An individual player from Oxygen to set them up with a 2-0 advantage here versus the Sonics.
If there's one thing about nasty players in FPS is the last thing you want to do is accidentally pre-fire before they get to an angle, because you're moments away from just getting shot right in your face. Like it's almost instantaneous, just like that situation. It's not the fact that Yeti made some insane decision right there. It was like, oh, why would you do that, Yeti? You know, he's trying to play off of audio and everything else that's going on right there. It just gives Laxing such a solid situation for himself. That's really hard to try and come back from, especially in the position of Yeti in open area there. There's nothing really to stand behind where he's going to be safe. Even if he makes it over the cubicle, Laxing more than likely still pre-fires, either deals a lot of damage or kills him. So there's a lot of different problems there for him. But past that, Oxygen 2-0 right now at the current moment and firing on all cylinders. I mean, look across this board for OXG at the current moment.
is indeed looking great at this point for OXG as they try to once again line things up for themselves and secure a third round. And the Soniqs just trying to get their feet planted on the ground here as they've been unable to negotiate a round just yet. Going to be going for their third site now as they do actually go back over into an open area hold, I believe, this time. So let's see how well this pans out for them. They attempt to control one more time. And actually, I'll correct myself. It is a basement hold here, so now we're seeing that play towards blue. So Super's going to continue to maintain his position at top blue, but this time he won't have the bunker, and it didn't really help him out in the previous round either that we saw played into this basement assault. Oxygen was still able to brute force their way past his position, so he's probably not going to be crying too much over the loss of all that utility to the Retera drone.
Got quite a few of those things, so probably not sweating it too much, especially with their positioning on this top floor already. I'm going to get quite a bit of info from this situation. More than likely get a kill as well if somebody makes a pretty big mistake here. But obviously with all of the debris that's on the ground inside a small office, they know that hatch is open. So, excuse me, shouldn't have Oxygen making any, or rather Soniqs making any grand sweeping decisions inside of this situation as of right now. Noor is going to try and bear down on the location of main stairs. It'll be Yeti on the receiving end at the current moment. He has a Banshee at the bottom of the stairwell, so he'll be able to back off and try and play some intel in a certain sense in this situation, but the Oxygen member is still going to be able to play it out quite handedly if he does get to the bottom of that stairwell, have some opportunities to try and take some fights before that Banshee will catch them. So for Oxygen now, this timer continues to dwindle. Soniqs have done a very good job of being able to delay this out, but it all comes down to this last minute to see if it actually paid off.
Soniqs indeed able to delay things out into the final 60 seconds of play, and now it's up to Oxygen. Try and work their way past it, hoping they can maybe catch one or two players through the hatchwork or just trying to get aggressive on the stairs, but so far has not transpired in the way that Oxygen would have liked. They're going to bring it down to this final minute. Try to get themselves a big execute into the site going. Using the can openers to pop open that inside hatch there will give them the access they need. Super as well, still in server, able to directly counter out the advances of the Retera drone or other pieces of utility that Oxygen may want to try and throw down here. Super ready for the challenge, but is he going to be able to win this fight here? Two players swinging out against him, and he tries to unpeak from it, but no, just does not go his way. Laxing able to brute force his way into server. Here's going to be the big problem, though. A massive lack of time for Oxygen as they've only got 20 seconds left to make this plant happen. Vertical does not care, though, as he's leaped into this site. Finally going to overstep his bounds just a tad as Grixer is able to fend him off. They'll also be able to stop this plant. Beautifully done from Grixer here as he just casually shuts it down and now patiently waits for the next opportunity to come in. Oxygen need to find the counter for this. They need to eliminate Grixer, but they haven't even got Kansan into this fight yet either. Grixer able to shut down one more as he locks in the quad, and Soniqs fend off finally the advances from Oxygen, putting their first round on the board here on the third.
The delay works out for the Soniqs. You can see how frantic Oxygen is once they get towards the site because they realize that if they pop that Goyo canister, the round is now over. They only have one effective place to actually plant, even with it just simply sitting there. If there's any utility usage from the defense, the planter more than likely dies, and that's a round due to the fire. So they have to try and go plant on the single panel, and that's a big problem just because of your hitbox, the way that it extends out from that position, just like we saw abused multiple times by the defense right there from the Soniqs. Just step up right on that angle, find the shoulder of the player planting, able to take them down in that situation instead. So very well done from SQ to be able to get their first round on the board. And fortunately enough, looks like we have things fixed. So no re-host happening, or at least happening at the current moment. Looks like we have an update on our little social voting poll here. Let's see actually who ended up winning this. Who would win in a Hell in a Cell match? It's going to be Laxing. I mean, I could see that. Yeti, I feel like Yeti's got like the wild factor, right? I feel like you really never know what's going to happen. He's just wild, man, when it comes down to it.
And he would win the steel cage match, maybe, if we go to that format.
Dude, you know, just slap him right in the octagon. I'd pay.
We'll have to see if we can set that up later on in the season. But for right now, they'll have to keep the fight in the server at this point here, with Oxygen still in control of things and the Soniqs wanting instead to try and bring this back under their own control. They'll attempt to do so with an upstairs hold this time to see if this tertiary site will work out for them, or if they'll end up falling victim to these clean executes that we've been seeing from Oxygen in pretty much every single round, minus the last one. Vertical lined up, already in position to punish any sort of J play we might get out of these players. You're going to see that silhouette. That is not a player on the inside of J, just in case anyone's confused by that. It's Rexon out in the hall. So obviously Laxing not going to have an angle on that player for some time until we see them back up into that position.
Yes, indeed. Vertical He's actually going to go for an adjustment off of the north windows. He's just holding that for some time to see if anybody wanted to cross through CEO, but obviously no one home except for the central office. Soniqs are going to take their time this time around on defense yet again, just because of how well it worked against Oxygen the times before. We still have some downstairs presence. You'll have Yeti over inside of Tellers, as well as Rexen playing around the main stairwell at the current moment, but it's really going to be up to Oxygen to try and get rid of this nuisance, especially with Yeti playing down low. He's got a lot of different positions that he can play here, especially if they have insight as to what's going on upstairs. That super shorty secondary can break up some of the flooring, potentially take out somebody that's planning the case or things along those lines. So this is something that they want to try and deter.
Soniqs still prepped and ready for the challenge, but they're not giving Oxygen anything they would potentially need to line up these opening kills here. Yeah, they've taken aggressive position, but they're not really moving inside of it. They're not trying to swing out aggressively against the setups from OXG. So OXG are just bleeding the time down yet again as they try to build up their drone intel. Doing a much better job at maintaining the drone presence here. That was an issue a few rounds back that they were still able to work their way past. But at this point here, with only a minute remaining, they still have 7 out of 10 of their drones alive and on the field. So plenty of intel still to be bled into this round here for our attackers. It's just about the proper execution upon that intel. I think we may be finally starting to see the results of it. Yeti being pushed out of position here. He's brought down to about 2/3 of his HP. Grixer also potentially popping out there versus Newers. Just not enough to get the full kill on either one of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, count your lucky stars, because I've never seen a time where there was a mark and Newers didn't immediately start shooting at it. So very fortunate that he was able to get by with the plant already going down. Dreep hightailing it into sight, and he'll start planting right behind the front table here inside of CEO. He'll get that plant down behind the desk, and now will force us into the post plant. It's a 4 versus 4. Foxay, pretty interesting position for him here inside of Leasing, but Yeti obviously getting pulled to this direction. He knows that Fox is eventually going to try and sneak up this avenue, but the big problem is that they don't have time to try and deal with it. Rexen will be able to get one, which means obviously Vertical's aware that he's more than likely going to swing square here momentarily. Back and forth they go. A big kill for Vertical, make it 2, and a triple on the round. It's all down to Grixer with low HP, and that flank works out from Foxay as they play it out on the timer. Oxygen, 3-1.
Great management on the situation there, especially after the post plant coming in from OXG, just playing into the fact more so than anything that the Soniqs did not have an idea as to what that post plant looked like for themselves. So they had to try and creep forward, as you were seeing here towards the end of it, with Kansan as well as Rexen just playing on the outside of Jay. And well, yeah, Rexen was able to line up one kill. He was unable to build the confidence up to push back in, take out Vertical's position, which allowed him to kill the rotate through Jay, eventually Rexen himself, and then shut down the rest of the round from there.
This is very well put from Oxygen. Really nothing that Soniqs can do there, especially with the way that they have the site built up. Once Vertical gets control of that long angle across the majority of the site, Soniqs are already in just hot water. There's really nothing that you can do to try and challenge out that man. It's always going to be a coin flip, right? And the majority of the time, Vertical's going to win that. He's got the better gun, more than likely has a better sight in a lot of different regards, depending on the operator that he's fighting on the defense. So it's always going to be pretty difficult for the defense in that kind of a situation. So Soniqs just kind of bleeding at the current moment as these rounds continue to build up for OXG. We've seen one very solid defense from SQ so far, so we're hoping for some more. And it all starts here inside of open area.
So OXG out on the map yet again, and for the Soniqs, well, they're going to try and change up their own fate a little bit here. Grixer just reapplying the barricade over by Stock, so seems he's trying to line up a little bit of intel for himself, and just these peeks for the clones that he'll throw out to try and build up the intel game outside the window should Oxygen pre-fire into that. And then, of course, if an opportunity presents itself, Grixer can try to act directly upon that. The real story, is going to be over here at ATMs. We've got Yeti out inside of the entry hall, going to be trying to potentially swing out against these players.
Oh no, Oxygen, you misdroned him. Oh, okay,
they saw him, though. They sent another drone in to check it.
My goodness gracious.
All good.
Shout out Dream for that, because nobody droned that side of ATM there for a split second. That's actually a new addition once they remade Bank. There actually wasn't a pathway there. It was always just stacked up filing cabinets and like a bookshelf inside of a pathway. And they just conveniently opened it, but you really don't get to see that much play around it, because a lot of the times when you work your way in from ATM, there's somebody lying in the wings for you. And it just so happens to be a Yeti this time around. A rare find, one would say. You might want to camera.
Smooth play from Yeti. Here's the drone buzzing around. Knew there had to be a peek sometime soon, so went for the direct contact and lines up the stars against Newers, knocking him out of the fight and giving Soniqs the opening edge inside of this round here. Going to be an open area round as well, so Oxygen, that's going to be a huge lack Now that they've lost Newers here, it would have been great to have that utility more than anything to be able to carry it forward later on into the round and isolate out these more trickier position players on the Soniqs roster, such as the Stockhold currently being played by Rexon. And if he's still there, Grixer 2 upstairs.
Loving this controlled aggression from the Soniqs. They're taking forward positions, but they're not just going swinging willy-nilly. They're trying to make sure that Oxygen cannot get control of a lot of the different areas that are very important, like archives. Yeti mismanages this windowsill, breaks out the bottom of that, and fortunately enough for Oxygen's sake, Vertical's in the neighborhood, so he just quickly stops by and makes the quickest pit stop of his life for that kill onto Yeti. And now Soniqs, they have to try and reclaim back into the site to help out Kansan, but fortunately enough, no oversight on this situation, so Oxygen have been able to get away with this. Oh, saw the gun barrel there. Don't know Vertical is aware that he can potentially kill Super here, but no, he actually didn't see the gun barrel of Super. He's going to get traded out pretty evenly here. Dream now the only one inside a printer.
Battery was hoping Dream would have been able to establish Overwatch while he checked the interior of the site. Just bad timing fell onto the Oxygen attack. Either way, it's led to a 1-to-1 exchange. And that puts us down into a 3 versus 2 scenario. Still in the favor of the Soniqs, with time starting to also favor them quite heftily over these next few moments as well. OXG needs to find a way. They need to do it quickly. Only 20 seconds remaining on the clock here. Dream's going to toss out at least one of his Selmas to catch these players. They seem to be somewhat aware of Grixer's position over here inside of Tellers, and they're trying to isolate that out, but Dream gets caught by Rexon in the small office here in Fox. Fortunately, not really left with much of a choice. He's going to try and brute force it through beepers. He'll go down to Rexon. Also, Rexon now left alone here, not with much hope to clutch it out. So the round goes into the hands of the Soniqs.
Super unfortunate for Oxygen right there. They're eventually able to get the pick, but the Soniqs being able to play all of those positions off-site and then work it back into the site. That's the big thing there. Oxygen had no oversight onto E2, and we see 2 Soniqs members simply vacate the premises on the top floor and get back into a safe spot, making it way too difficult for Oxygen to try and fight their way in. Even when it came to the Tellers area, Soniqs still have a body there, and there's no way really to dislodge them. So Oxygen are constantly worrying about all of these different threats, and they still have to try and execute onto the site at the end of the day, and that's where kind of the crossroads hit. You know, it's like that old term, you never want to cross the streams, and that's exactly what we just saw happen here. They're trying to deal with off-site presence, on-site presence, trying to get a plant down. Everybody's all trying to do things at once, and it's just too many cooks in the kitchen for OXG. Soniqs able to get the round over on them.
I like he called it like that old quote when it's
pretty old.
It's from Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters is pretty old.
It's from the 80s.
That would be old. That's 40 years ago, John. It's 2022.
I'll leave that up to the audience.
I mean, most of our audience is like, I'm going to assume under 25.
You're probably right.
So like I was born in '97 and I'm 25. So and everyone assumes that I'm old. So I get called grandpa by people when I play Siege. Like, how old are you? Why are you playing video games? Oh, well, I mean, it's because they're fun. Sorry, I guess. Let me steal that elo real quick, though, if you don't mind.
Taking a look at the opening play here from Oxygen as they try to force their way into this bank yet again. It's going to be Yeti trying to stand in the way of that as he'll be first contact, with Oxygen moving in to clear out through top square as well as through stock. We'll see if Yeti wants to take the challenge out right as he is going to be droned out from his initial position there just by the stock door. Heads back towards the top of the main stairs and doesn't actually leave this entirely. Does rotate down to the first floor, however. So Norse will have to be able to move it down towards that before he can potentially get the opportunity to knock out Yeti here as he is long gone from the second floor hold.
Into E2, we'll see if potentially, John, our theory from earlier stands true. Will Oxygen check the elevators? And I think the answer is yes. I think Yeti. No, Yeti just ran out and got bodied through a random wall. That is just so so very unfortunate for him. So for the Soniqs, they're going to be down a member, and Oxygen, well, like Rex leaking as well.
That's very well shot. They're able to follow the tracers through and take the trade against Vertical. Bringing us back down into an even fight for the 4v4. Norris is ready to move himself down through the main stairs in the meanwhile and fend off any pressure that still might be in the neighborhood from the Soniqs. Not going to be so easy to locate. And as well, just based on the way that Oxygen have been playing, this has been a pretty slow rolling game so far, so I would not expect them to try and take too aggressive a stance here to move this forward. More than likely going to use the remaining minute or 45 seconds of excess time they have before being forced into an execute, just like the previous basement attacks.
Well, Waxing Not really able to find anything of use with that Rotero drone, so it's just going to randomly explode inside of open area. Oxygen still trying to deal with a couple of hatches and things along those lines, but fortunately enough, they still have the time to do so. Very similar circumstances, at least time management-wise, to what we saw last time. And, oh, wouldn't you know it, John? We are literally in a deja vu moment here. It's going to be Super back in behind the server stack. He's going to get the drone yet again. Has one of my discs everywhere. The pressure's going to be coming in through from Oxygen very, very soon. Don't know if they still have the Goyo canister on that single panel, though, so it could actually assist.
This is such a safe
regard,
clear.
Oh,
no!
That's the big problem. They don't have a multitude of bodies on the angle. It's, going to give Super some room there, and he's going to actually make the best of the situation, not only delaying so much time, but also forcing Oxygen's hand and getting a big kill because of it.
Yeah, one of the worst potential outcomes of that situation was a 1-for-1, so Super able to get away with that one really limits the aggressive options that Oxygen have just in terms of a lack of manpower here. Newers drops directly into the site. No targets present themselves, despite him having the right reads on all three of them. There we go, but he's lost his planter. Someone else needs to get to it quickly enough here, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do so. No, the defenders win it out on the timer, and Soniqs will equalize the scoreline at halftime.
Extremely well done from the Soniqs. These basement setups have been so very strong from them every single time. Whether it be with Super playing around blue stairs or more of an extended thing where people drop back down, it has time and time again gotten in the way of Oxygen's attempt to plant, and it's made things way too difficult for them. I especially love the way that we saw Super play out that round. By the way, Super Charm in store at the current moment if you want to go pick that up. It's as free as Twitch Prime is, actually, if you want to go and slap your Twitch Prime on Super's Twitch channel. So make sure you guys go and check out actually everybody's content creation charms that we got in this last patch, including, Wi-Fi's as well. So yeah, lots of different content creators getting exactly what they deserve, including Super. So make sure you guys go support our pros. I heard it gives you plus 10 to accuracy, plus like 50 to brain. So to be expected out of Super, right?
Yeah.
So either way, though, speaking of which, back to more on-topic things, just really love the way that the defense was played there from the Soniqs. The delay, Super's still playing for his life inside of server because it delays even more time, and he gets the kill onto Dream, and then it forces Oxygen to go and plant on that single panel again, because guess what? The Goyo canister is still on the single panel wall on a soft breach, so if you break it, you no longer have a plant, a spot to actually plant. So big issue there, and very well handled from SQ.
Going to be getting to see how Oxygen handles their own basement defense now, as they'll choose to play into this for their first round on the side. Of course, Dream going to take actually direct contact against anyone that tries to move in through the sewer tunnels here, so not going to be getting anything from that, unfortunately. The Soniqs don't have anything in that department, but what we probably are going to see a little bit of action spring out from is that open area setup. Laxing also set up just behind the teller's desk here to try and fend off any pressure. They're really spreading themselves out, Oxygen leaving all options open in terms of where to mitigate the entry potential for the Soniqs. This could come back to bite them if the Soniqs are able to read into the intel appropriately, but it's looking like as well Oxygen are going to try to change up their own formation just a tad so they can maybe set up some trade setups here if they're going to be trying to take the fight on this floor.
Got some reinforcements here on the kitchen wall, so Rexon will be aware that could be a couple of Oxygen members playing around open area. First scan out, don't exactly know who it got a hold of right there. Newers is going to try and fall back, and Rexon is going to get a big kill inside of Archives. Apparently no one aware of the positioning of the Soniqs members on the Oxygen side. They're going to try and recoup from this, though. Still have two inside of open area. Actually, on second looks, it looks like one of them dropped off, so it'll just be Laxing here, as well as the smoke player of Dreams sitting at the top of blue. Laxing's going to fall off as well, as we are reaching that minute-and-a-half mark, usually the call sign for the entire defensive setup on Rome to start working their way back to site. That's exactly what we'll see out of OXG as they try and maintain their man count.
Attackers have located a bomb.
They're going to be setting up a couple Argus cams here as the team moves themselves forward just to establish a little bit of flank watch over towards the main stairs. Rexon as well, making things a bit easier in the post plant for the player that's going to remain upstairs here by peppering out the parts of that desk wall here. Dream still trying to lay as much as possible from top blue, even has the Goyo canister to fend off the swing. We're going to obviously see the Yana clone go directly into it, as she's not a real person, so she can't take damage. But
How dare you?
yeah, sorry, a little. We'll still see the fight get forced upon Dream here, though, and ultimately he's going to be able to 1-for-1 it, finishing off Rexon after he downed him with the shotgun due to the Toxic Babe being in the area.
Hey, clones have lives too, all right? Star Wars would like to talk to you, John. Oxygen looking in the greatest straits right now, but fortunately enough, they still have some denial in the pocket. 2 nitro cells await the arrival of the Soniqs, but can they deal with all of this utility on the shores? Frag grenades out deep into red hallway. It won't take anybody else. Oxygen trying to respect the utility game of the Soniqs as well and doing a pretty bang-up job of it at the current moment. Super will begin his plant yet again. Here will be the Overwatch from the Yana. Grixer, nitro cell out. He'll get shot out of the air as well. A confirmed plan and potentially around now for the Soniqs, especially after that kill onto Laxing.
Soniqs just way too well prepared for any of the shenanigans that were going to come out from Oxygen in this round here. And you're seeing this right before you. Every single rotate they try to play into, every single peek they try to go for. There was already someone from the Soniqs trained and scoped in on that angle. So they shut down this post plant beautifully, not even giving a hope of a comeback there for Oxygen.
Yeah, the two big differences that we see in these two basement takes is the pacing of the Soniqs. Very quick to get downstairs and start breaking things up on site. Still have an entire minute when they're actually resting inside of server, whereas for Oxygen, they were still on the mid-floor breaking up hatches and trying to get other things solved. If you get down towards server around that minute time, there's really no sense of denial that can actually deny you all the way down to the wire where you're going to have to force plant yourself down to a 0-0 timer, unless literally everybody on the defense has a denial piece and they're alive. So it's going to require quite a bit of heavy lifting in that regard for a situation like that. So the Soniqs are working their way through this on just very, very strong timing, knowing especially after the picks that there's probably going to be maybe 1, maybe 2 nitro cells still left. And if they have the Overwatch on that, especially on land, those nitro cells are practically clay pigeons flying through that hole. So knock it out of the sky, more than likely get a plant. And that's exactly what we see out of SQ. They trust their guns and trust the fact that there's really only a Goyo canister in the way, and they guess right.
Well, time to see if they can keep that drive consistent as they try to go for another basement assault. This time, Oxygen will play into it one final time here to try and see if they can make it happen. As, of course, they did take the tactical pause on the previous rounds. They do probably have some immediate adjustments ready to go in terms of how they're going to try to change up their play style. We'll have to wait and see. Operator lineup is going to bring some similarities to the table.
Oh,
we do get... What's up?
Did you see all 3 Goyo canisters on the wall inside a server?
Oh, no, I did not catch that yet.
CCTV, the entire single panel side where the plant goes down default, there's 3 Goyo canisters attached to that wall. I am not joking. So that's, yep, there it is.
Oh, yeah, 1, 2, where's the, oh, yeah, there's the third on the left side. Kind of blended in there.
That is something.
So this will be annoying.
Yeah, it could, oh, wow, yeah, it'll most
what is that?
definitely be annoying.
That's a minute of delay right there, right?
Yeah, because they're each 20 seconds. Yep. So, but it also depends on if there's a very well-placed nade/breaching round. Actually, luckily enough, that's really it. The Soniqs past that, Grixer could, if we're going off into the theory land, right? He could actually get an Argus cam in and shoot one of them with a laser, but we're going a little bit too deep. So let's stay where we should, you know, right in the middle of the pond. So looks like we are gonna have Rexon now starting to work his way downstairs, and oh man, this could be a very poor situation right now. Oxygen. There's nobody home. Actually, legitimately, there is not a single soul even in the site. I think the closest player right now is inside of server, and then there's the one on main stairs. But obviously, Soniqs don't know that. Yet he's going to start working his way in. We're going to have the cross here from Vertical. But Vertical, hate to break it to you, highly doubt that there's going to be anybody moving towards you through that garage with that Oath to shut up. You might have Yeti try and get in and get aggressive, but past that, it's going to be the Soniqs trying to work this through other parts of the map.
Fox 8 still waiting for the opportunity to frag out here, and so is Vertical. Is also positioned upstairs, trying to fend off any pressure that might come in from the Soniqs through that avenue, and they're going to get it. As Kanzit has moved in here, looking to try and isolate the position of Newers now. Eliminate him if at all possible. Going to be hard to lock him down, though, as he's a very mobile player and a very snappy player as well. When it comes to his aims, you don't want to try and take him head on. Surely he's not going to go too well into your favor, as can be seen from the scoreboard. So he leads 6-3 with Vertical. Right in front of him, they're at 8-6 so far on the fragging impact this game. Kanzit with a great nade lined up here. We'll see if there's mitigation on the inside. There's not, but it also doesn't catch Laxing fully. Still forced to peek, though, as he knows the jig is up. So Kanzit's still going to be able to win that out due to the HP advantage he gained earlier on with the nade.
Somebody check that guy's Moss. I don't know how he survived that frag grenade, but hey, you know, if it's working for Soniqs, it's working for us, right? So they're able to get the kill onto Laxing at least after that frag grenade usage, and now Oxygen able to fire back as well as Newers will get 1. You thought the Soniqs would have this, but the pacing's been a little bit too slow to try and catch Oxygen off guard. in this situation. So Vertical's going to have to try and double back after he takes this initial duel with Kansan on the stairwell. He's taken a little bit of damage, but Oxygen have been able to stay steadfast here.
Vertical still waiting for the hatch drop to happen here, as the Sonics will need to force themselves into the site relatively soon. They're expecting it to come from the back end. Oh, misplaced positioning there from Newers, though his foot just a little too far out to the open, and almost zero reaction when he's shot at by Kansan as well. He goes down. Super lines up another kill also. This is where things will start to get a little bit dangerous, but we have to remember those Goyo canisters sitting deeper in the site. Have they been dealt with yet? Well, the case has, that's for sure, with Vertical and Foxay both picking up kills. It's all on Grixer as well as Rexen now to isolate this one. Rexen has the position, he has the cutoffs to stop this hop, but he got through, got over towards the Grixer's able to get off it, and he shoots down Vertical as well. That should not happen, but the Sonics make it happen anyway.
I have no analysis for that. That's
what a blunder.
That's a feels bad man. That's what that is. There's no other way to really put that. Foxay, I am sure that he felt like the dumbest man alive right when he turned around, and Grixer just shoots him right in the face after that plant. Like, that's just so very unfortunate. Oh my gosh.
All right.
Oh my, man. John, you ever
This game's heating up.
You ever just have moments where you're just like, oh, man, I really love my life. Like, that's kind of where I'm sitting at today. The morning did not start off too well, but now, right now, in this current moment, I'm feeling pretty good.
So we'll have to see if the Sonics, as well as they're probably feeling pretty good too after they get away.
That lineup, they are feeling themselves. Doke, Amaru, Ying,
What is this execute going to be, my friend? What exactly are we going to see here?
My friend, let me just show you guys something really quickly. I'm going to be a car salesman for a second. I'm going to slap the top of this thing right here. John, do you know how many bullets you can fit in this lineup?
How much annoying stuff they can throw in through those windows with the lineup they have right now?
There's 4 LMGs on this team, dude. I'm telling you, John, that in their primary magazine, when all of these guns are fully reloaded, they have over 350 bullets that are active inside of the round. Like, and it might be even more than that. That was just the quickest mental math I could possibly do to slapping things together. Like, that's nowhere accurate. That's actually just bonkers. Then you have Yeti that's just going to be on some angle with the EBR, so you get tagged twice and you die. Like, oh my gosh, Oxygen, you better be ready for war. You guys better batten down the hatches. They're going to wish they had a zombie, or rather, actually a zombie in this situation pretty badly, but obviously these bans have really been holding her up with her recent release. So, in the first minute here, and past all the memes that we can make about these LMGs, it's actually been quite a slow round from the Sonics as they try and work their way through this top floor. And as soon as I say that, it's going to be a quick execution and a plant here from Super with all the smokes in the world, as well as Grixer able to chuck in a couple of his own Candelas to add to the pile.
Rexen's position as well, as he's able to sneak himself all the way forward into J. The plant is down, though, and even though it's a 1-for-1, positions have been established in the post-plant. Vertical, though, sneaking through. They don't realize he sneaks his way forward into the connector, and they're not able to get him on the repelled angle either. So this is a big change up to the round here. Vertical now needs to use this to gather as much intel as possible and allow his teammates to flood back in here. As the Sonics have suddenly lost their edge, Yeti might very well get it back, but here we go. There's the repelled position from Kansan to deny the play from Vertical. He'll be forced off the counter defuse, and Kansan pops out one more time to shut it down as the Sonics bring a booming strategy into the upstairs take to push them onto map point.
I think potentially the smartest decision. I think potentially the smartest decision that the Sonics have made with this lineup is having Super do all of the risky things. Not having Super go down to the clutch moment where it's him versus 2, or maybe him inside of a 2 versus 2. I mean, I'm sorry, but Super's not very clutch inside of those situations.
It's a fair point,
yeah, it's
right?
worth the conversation. If anything, I think he's playing 10 times better in a situation like this, where he's allowed to do the silly thing and just make the most of the situation. Even on the defensive side, they're like, hey, once he gets down that low timer, Super just creeps right into server stack, and he's just going to wait there and see if he can, I don't know, delay more time, get some more kills, do anything of the sort. But all of that's playing into the hand of the Sonics, no matter which way you slice it, including that last round. I mean, all Super actually had to do was get that plant down, but he still got a kill. So it means even more in that situation, and that's exactly what you want to see out of Super. I'm very happy with how they're utilizing everybody on this squad at the current moment. And speaking of utilizing things, looks like we might be having a conversation here in a couple of minutes, depending on how Sense goes for Yeti.
Yeah, Sense is an operator we have not seen used a whole lot as of yet. We did get We did get them played one time with Space Station last week, although it didn't
It was on
really...
Oregon. It was a kids' dorms offense.
It didn't really work.
Very, very poorly.
Yeah, so we didn't really get to talk about it too much.
And honestly, it might go poorly again here, if I'm being honest with you. You know what the problem is with Sense? The problem is with Sense, oh my god, Rexon's already in, Laxing's already dead, they've got open area, Dream already got Grixer as well. I don't know where Yeti is.
Yeti's like on the other side of the map. He spawned in the wrong spot.
Now Rexon's dead as well, as Newer's just going to pre-fire through all of those cubicles like we were talking about. I mean, everything's so soft inside of that room, you're bound to die if you try and find some cover. So Dream, as well as Newers, will try and hold down this area a little bit longer. A very aggressive look there from the Soniqs, and it works out initially, but I mean, past that, it's kind of been snoozeable for Soniqs as they've lost 2 bodies early.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that this was not part of the initial plan and that Rexon or Grixer saw something that made them believe they could take the site without needing the assistance of their teammates, and obviously that does not play it out in their favor. Yeti, though, with a free walk-in against Vertical, because things are, I'm going to be honest with you, really confusing for Oxygen right now, given the execute they saw at the beginning of the round. They're probably having a hard time getting a grasp as to what exactly the Soniqs are trying to do at this moment, but now it's been brought down onto an even platform, 3 versus 3. As well, Super with some good drone intel there about what's going on inside of the site. Yeti's now going to probably try and position himself to use that appropriately here. He'll also have to probably use the can opener to get this wall open, unfortunately, as he does not have, or they do not have, excuse me, a lot of stop breach potential.
Yeah, so it's going to be a piece of hard breach for Yeti. The big issue as of right now is that Oxygen have dead members, and they also have Dream up. So you have the 81 of Maestro in his hands, but you have those Evil Eyes around. So Sense's utility, practically useless at the current moment, as all of those Evil Eyes will just be able to see through it, and there's nobody on the offense that can do the exact same. So more than likely have some bullets flying Oxygen's way if Sense is used in that way, but obviously Soniqs do still have some drone info coming to them from sight, so definitely be something that influences the later moments of this one.
Yeah, he's still hunting for any targets here. There's a lot of extra time on the clock because of the shenanigans that went on at the beginning of this round. Foxay, fearing something, will be prompted to throw out his first Toxic Bay. Might have just been on timing more than anything, though, as we just reached the 1-minute marker, so he's probably going to want to try and bleed these out to stop any immediate follow-through action from Yeti or Kansan upstairs here, basically prompting them to almost ignore him inside of J, which will be dangerous if they go for it. Nors, though, he's going to get the confirmation of it as Yeti drops in and gets the kill. We don't even need the Sense utility, as Yeti's just getting it all done with the gun here. Finally falls to Foxay as he trades it back onto another even platform. Down to the 2v2. Foxay jukes the bullet spray, and Dream comes in for the assist to knock out Super, leaving Kansan all on his own here. This is the player that did the damage to Foxay earlier, but he is plastered on the floor now. Not going to be moving at all because he can shut things down that easily with one pump from the shotgun. Oxygen stay in the fight and push themselves one step closer to overtime now.
What a scrappy, weird, awkward Theoryland round. That was just, there was a lot going on with that one, and it all started very early with this entry game from Rexon, but Grixer as well as Rexon both quickly dispatched, and the Soniqs able to at least grasp a hold of a few very important straws, but it wasn't enough at the end of the day. Oxygen able to make the stand on the defensive end once they're able to get their way back into sight, and Foxay is allowed to hold things down, not only on the top floor, but also when it came down to small office, and Soniqs trying to pressure their way through archives. Very well done from Oxygen, but the big issue is they still have to do this with back-to-back rounds.
For anybody looking for the analysis on the Sense play there, we're not really going to have much to offer you, as Yeti literally did not touch the utility at any point during that round. Only picked them up for the gun, and that was it seems.
I mean, I was actually going to say that. If you want a little bit of analysis, everybody's been talking about how Sense's gun isn't that great, and it's all just bullets, but it seems to be working pretty well. I'm just putting it out there.
Like I said, I think there was probably a grander execute plan for the Soniqs. They just never really got around to because of what happened in like that first minute.
I just can't believe that the call from bringing in Sense was, hey guys, I think we found a gap. Let's just run directly into the site. I was like, I mean, hey, you're kind of going against your own good graces there, but that's fine. You know, sometimes you got to go against your own strategy to win out a game, especially if things call for it, right? So the Soniqs are back out and about, and Super's going to be adjusting yet again here onto the Monty this time around. Some free aggression and some free pressure onto the defense as soon as he slides that shield over his legs.
The rest of Oxygen, they won't be able to catch this immediately, but they more than likely heard it moving around outside of the buildings. We'll be making preparations to potentially flank around that and look for an easy way to eliminate it. Yeti, in the meanwhile, still positioned outside of the lobby office here, waiting for an opportunity to hop in and start to clear out this map. Unfortunately, the early drone work still needs to be done here by the Soniqs, so he's kind of waiting for that to be finished up before he tries to move himself forward. We'll do a little bit of it on his own, too, from the position as he's kind of on his lonesome right now. Kansan will give him the call-out, though, that the top spiral stairs is going to be pretty much open for the taking. We'll get one more confirmation of Tellers probably off of this Argus cam, and then once that is done, Yeti and a few other members of the Soniqs roster will be good to move in, and not only will they be good to move in, they'll be good to get kills, too. Rexen from the window, apparently, able to catch Vertical inside and take him down. Maybe a hop-out, potentially.
Very unfortunate. Oh, actually, I think he caught him inside of Checkers, I do believe.
That's a crazy cross, if so.
Kind of hard to say. There could just be some debris in there as well, as John and I are both trying to scan over our third-person POV and find this body. But no, it actually wasn't Checkers. It's right in front of Dream at the current moment. He was bearing down on the ATM location, but not able to tag up any Soniqs members.
So Dream is going to get quickly spotted out by that drone. It says hello and goodbye in a matter of a second. Nade's chucked in against Dream, but it's going to be a little bit too far away. Still has to keep the dance rolling, however, as bullets continue to be sprayed in from that rappel position. Another nade now getting chucked at him. A little overcooked, though, as it blows itself up before it reaches the windowsill. So once again, no damage against Dream here. He continues to cause a massive sink in the time. And as well, Foxy, I don't even know if he's been noticed yet. This should be a free peek for him. He's not even paying attention to it, though. Misses the transition entirely from Rexen, but is going to get the free pick onto Super that drops the case. That's arguably an even bigger kill that Rexen now has to make up the difference for.
Rexen's going to jump off of Banana. Oxygen still have at least a solid sight set up, and now with the case down right outside of the Banana door, this could cause a lot of issues. Oxygen need to build up around Fox at the current moment, and the other thing is Fox cannot go too far on this elevator angle, and he knows that. Playing back and forth. They're waiting for the shots now. Pre-fires back and forth. Fox trying to hit his shot. Those single little bullet taps not working their way out, and that could be the game right here as Fox and yet another member of Oxygen go down. It's left up to Newers. Can't land his initial shots, has the bailiff and he'll win it. Needs a new magazine though, and no, it's Yeti who runs through quad window and takes him down. The Soniqs win it over Oxygen here on Bank. And I think they're back, folks. Stage 1, it's a fluke. Stage 2, the Soniqs looking pretty spicy.
Definitely the case as they close it down before the end of regulation as well. One round before it, in fact, as they take this game 7-4. A full 3-point spread now going up on the board for the Soniqs as a result of taking this game in regulation. What a way to take it as well, from the execution, just the overall style of play. Soniqs played lights out in today's matchup here. It gave us quite a show in the process of it.
Yeah, and this Soniqs match is brought to you by the Super Charm. Make sure you guys head over to Super's Twitch channel and get your Super Charm with Twitch Prime. It is absolutely free with your Twitch subscription. No, he did not pay us to say this. I promise you. But it was
he's
still
just nice.
Yeah. Well, actually, no. That's where I got the $5 from.
So that explains.
Yeah, absolutely the case. But either way you shake it, Soniqs are looking really, really solid this week, coming away with 3 points. But that's going to do it for us here today, folks. We hope you enjoyed the first 2 games. The next 3 games, you got Lynx and Intero. Lynx, by the way, been killing it on the desk, been really enjoying hearing everything that he's got to say. So we hope that you enjoy too. But that's going to do it for us. We'll see you guys next week. But don't touch that browser. We got an analyst desk as well as an interview coming at you in moments.
Well, here we are again, back at the Rainbow Six NAL analyst desk, and you know what? Soniqs did it. They got it done. It's amazing. Are Soniqs back? Is it official?
I told you.
You were right.
Someone else, like, please acknowledge me, validate me. I had this right.
Good
Listen,
job.
it was
It
was a nice game from the Sonic. When they switched halves and they moved on to attack, they were doing some really, really fun ideas. They had so many different styles of attacking. It felt like every round they were bringing something new, whether it was the Russian play to the top floor or whether it was the Sens pick. They didn't all work out. There was one round where they did lose it, but still felt like Soniqs really had a good idea of how to attack onto Bank. They brought so much stuff, and Auction just couldn't keep up.
That's a pretty wide kill spread, honestly. I genuinely don't think that there was one player, maybe aside from Grixer, who had like highlight or standout plays, but he got multiple kills, I think, in like 2 rounds, and for the rest of the time, he was like quiet for essentially everything. Every other player on this team generally feels as though, I mean, look at how even that is. It's not, every other game today, or like over the past couple of games, we've had like one superstar player pop off. That's just not the case here. And look at how many points separate Soniqs from OXG.
Well, I don't think they needed it, right? I think that, like, obviously that first half was very back and forth. Everybody was kind of contributing. Vert had a big round. I thought that, like, a couple of times we saw some good like plants from players like Grixer. But generally, it felt like it was kind of a very back and forth first half. And then that second half, again, it was kind of all Soniqs, but it was all different like team ideas, right? It wasn't a big player popping off. It wasn't like they needed somebody like Rexon or Grixer to run through the site. Obviously they could, and you know, definitely they got their frags. 10 and 8 and 91 costs is pretty nice from Rexon. 5 opening picks as well. But generally it was very much a team game from the Soniqs. It looked great.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is that you look at that, it almost reminds me of the way Oxygen was looking in stage 1, right? Where somebody was always ready to step up when one of the other players was having kind of an off day. And I mean, Vertical putting up some, you know, better numbers than week 1, still not spectacular at 11 and 10, but Soniqs though, I mean, yeah, whenever they needed someone to step up, they did. There you go.
It felt like this was one of those games that Soniqs really just came in more prepared, right? I mean, OXG, I think they wanted to try to switch things up. They didn't want to play the exact same game that they played yesterday on Bank, but SQ came in with like so much prep and so much in their back pockets that Oxygen, I felt like, just didn't have anywhere near as many fresh ideas.
Well, let's talk about some of the rounds in particular. First one we're going to take a look at is round number 8. And this is one where, you know, we talked about players from Sonic stepping up. This is one where Grixer definitely did that. Didn't have the greatest stat line at the end of the day, but this round was crucial and he won it for him.
I'm looking more specifically at, like, look at how like far back he has to play this more specifically. He's already back in like a 2v2 spot. He has to get this off because he doesn't have like adequate cover because Rexon's across the map. Nothing's really to stop the Goyo from vaulting over and getting the kill, but he manages to pull off at the perfect moment to stop this and still has the cross going all the way back into the garage to fend this one off. That's just a matter of how fast he comes off the diffuser. It's at lightning speed. He's Sonic.
The thing about the Osa play in Garage as well, I like the pun, was that like even though he didn't get the kill on the player crossing into the bomb site, he still was able to call it happening because of course that Osa shield's minute of glass. So he was able to call that, and so that was the information from Grixer to be able to jump up and get the kill anyways. So that was at least like something he was able to contribute to help Grixer get that clutch.
Meanwhile, in round 9, the very next round, Soniqs came back with a very creative execute that ended up working out really well. And you talked about this earlier, Jesse, and Jacob's going to break this one down, but Soniqs really seemed to have like an entire toolkit of things they could bring an attack.
Before we actually cut to this, think about this. 4 LMGs, 2 smokes, and they have Super as the one planting in an off position. They're not worried about doing it in the normal spot, which means even if for some reason there was a Nitro Cell being used here, it's not positioned in the right, like look at all the LMGs on the outside, multiple on those windows. Grixer's all the way over here just making sure that if he gets run out on, he's not about to get shot from that spot. Yeti's also got a position over here. I think it's as Laxing is the one he rotates. Someone else comes back over to ATM's window. Yep, right over here. Yeti's about to swing back down, finds Laxing, ensures that nobody can actually get run out on those windows. They got the flank covered, they have their window positions covered, they made sure that they planted in a spot that's not the default area where you can just throw a smoke or a Nitro Cell to clear it. It was a crap ton of LMGs, plus Namaru, plus smokes, but that execute was just perfectly timed.
The most important player in that push was Rexon. He came through Square, walked in through Janitor, and killed Fox while the plant was going down so that Fox couldn't get that one kill onto Super while it was mid-plant. He only got one frag, and then he died, but it was still so impactful because that was an angle the window players just couldn't cover because of all the smoke play.
That's kind of one you know feels so good if you're the team that pulls it off, because it's one you know they ran through a bunch of times, a lot of dry runs to make sure that all the timing's right, then you pull it off on stage. It's got to feel great for Soniqs to win that round and also win the stage. On the Oxygen side of things, you wanted to talk, Jesse, a little bit about some of the operator bans and sort of what Oxygen thought process may have been coming into this one, even though it didn't necessarily end up working out for them.
Yeah, so Oxygen so far have played 2 maps in the NAL. They played Theme Park back-to-back week 1, they played Bank back-to-back week 2, and they ran different bans on every single one of those. Those left 4 bans are all going to be from week 1 on Theme, those right 4 bans all going to be on Bank. And on one hand, I do like that they're trying to mix things up, right? They're always keeping their opponents on their toes. It's not going to be the exact same map every single time. We talked about how important Valkyrie was yesterday. Since OXG banned it out, that changes how they play defense, right? Ultimately, though, it didn't come into too much effect there, and the thing that I would have liked to see more, especially on Bank today and yesterday, is utilizing more of those operators that didn't get banned out. Echo was on the board, Maverick was on the board the entire time today. They didn't ban those out, but they still didn't want to play them. They still didn't feel like it was worth bringing those 2 operators. And then Nook, even yesterday, we didn't see Auction bringing that out. So while they are banning to their opponents, they're banning operators that their opponents might find quite useful. They're not really taking advantage of the operators that they're leaving out on the board. And so maybe we could have seen something a little bit more successful if they had run some of those Echoes, if maybe the Maverick had a little bit more impact.
So I feel like that's a very similar criticism that we'd levy maybe back at like the same Navi team that played back at SI or prior, where that was what they did. They would always target ban against their opponents.
Right.
And you do have to consider all of the additional utility that you're still leaving on the board if you decide to do that. It's the same question we asked about Azami. As soon as Azami comes in, do you ban it and worry about the other operators, or do you pick her and allow her to be used by your opponents at the same time? It does feel like OXG can take a little bit more advantage of it, but it's not to say that a crazy variety of ops getting banned is bad. You just have to make the most of it.
Yeah, exactly. I think in the end, what all of this means is that there is a lot of competition going on right now in stage number 2. Everybody's beating everybody. It's going to be very, very close. And Oxygen, if you want to have the same kind of results as you did in stage 1, they're going to need to continue to evolve along with all of these other teams. So a loss today might be the kick in the pants, perhaps, that they need. We'll find out next week, I guess. But for now, we're going to take a quick break and get ready for our 3rd match of the day. It is going to be TSM versus Astrals. It is going to be great, and it's coming at you in just a few here on Rainbow Six NAL.